Burke Consulting, and I'll be assisting the city and the committee with this process. Our agenda tonight is to start off with a welcome from Mayor Jason Whalen, and then we'll follow with introductions of the committee and the staff. So Mayor Whalen, would you like to start us off?
Well, absolutely. So I just want to welcome everyone tonight. We very much appreciate the opportunity to work with you. And I am here principally to say thank you. Thank you for your service on this committee. Your work is important tonight. And I just want to reflect back on 25 years of city incorporation, that the city has made great strides forward in many areas, due in large part to the tremendous investment of time and talent by incredible volunteers, including your group tonight. So thank you again for your service. It's going to be interesting, I believe. After 25 years of incorporation, we now ask for your help in making a deep dive into this provision of our code. Tree preservation, climate change, city aesthetics, and the ability to lawfully develop one's property are all very interesting issues that are interconnected and interrelated to the work plan that you are going to be part and parcel of during this 5 or 6 months in making your deliberation and recommendations to the City Council. So it's very interesting work. As you all know, we've received a significant amount of public comment on all of these issues. And this is our chance to take a fresh look at this particular section of the code in response to the good comment that we've received from many residents of the public, in an effort to do better and to move the city forward to the next 25 years of its history. So again, thank you tonight for your work. We appreciate your time and your effort. And we are very excited about working with Burke Consulting as a key staff consultant for this process. They've done good work for us in the past, and I'm sure that they will live up to the expectation and their professionalism that they're known for. So thank you for being here, Lisa, and your team, and I will turn it back to you. And again, enjoy the process. It's an interesting one, and give us your best work, because we look forward to it and really rely on your recommendations. So thank you again.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd ask Jonathan on the Burke team to introduce himself, and then we'll go to Courtney, and then we'll dive in with the committee.
Great, thank you. So my name is Jonathan Morales. I'm a planner at Burke Consulting, and I'll be co-facilitating this process with Lisa and the city team.
Courtney, you're muted.
Hopefully that's my only snafu this evening. Good evening, everyone. I'm Courtney Brunel. I'm the planning manager here at the City of Lakewood, overseeing current planning activities.
Great, thank you, Courtney. I'm going to share my screen, and we have a list of the participants. We'll hear from the city attorney in just a few moments, and I'll let her introduce herself at that time. But for now, I thought we would go to the committee. And we listed you here by last name in alphabetical order, just to make it easy to walk through the introductions. From your applications, many of you had multiple affiliations, but listed it by the first name that appeared on the application. We would love to have you share your name and where you live, what you're looking forward to in the review of the tree code, and what is your favorite place in Lakewood. So Alan, would you like to start us off?
Good, I'll start off. I only have about a 20-page introduction started, so this shouldn't take too long. I'm on the Parks and Rec board. I've lived in Lakewood since '78, but I live on a piece of property my wife's family bought in 1935. We live alongside the old state game farm, which is now the wildlife area here in Lakewood. We have about 6 acres here. I have developed a couple of buildings on this property, and I also am a tree advocate. I work with a lot of youth groups in Lakewood area, Scoutmaster for 30 years and involved with scouts and youth groups. And I am the volunteer coordinator for the South Sound Burke area. I'm in Clover Park Rotary, and they've adopted the South Sound wildlife area also as a major project for the last several years. We continue to make improvements out there. So I am deeply rooted in Lakewood, and I'm all about taking care of our community here.
Thank you. How about John Boatman?
Hi, thanks. John Boatman, and I'm actually representing Clover Park School District. I was pleased, I was in the audience when a city council member had come to the school board meeting and had said that this committee was going to be put together and they were going to ask, the school district to have a representative. And I was quietly going, I hope it's me. I hope it's me. I hope it's me. So I'm happy to be here, happy to represent Clover Park School District. I don't live in the community, but participated on many of these ad hoc types of committees from time to time. I do have to say that my favorite part in Lakewood is actually Fort Steilacoom Park. My wife and I try to get together and have lunch, once a week together. And when the weather cooperates, we'll go through a drive-through and we'll be hanging out over at Fort Steilacoom Park, outside eating our lunch.
Thank you, John. Ed Brooks?
Hi, Ed Brooks. I'm with Sunset Pacific General Contractors. We're a commercial building company. We also do developments, and we have a property management company as well. I live on Lake Steilacoom. Matter of fact, I'm president of the Lake Steilacoom Improvement Club, have been for many years. I think what I'm looking forward to as far as a review of what's going on with trees here, I don't know, I like trees. I think they're important. Secondarily, I know how difficult it is sometimes to manage through the process of working with trees and developing. And so I just thought I'd throw my 2 cents worth in and what we're trying to accomplish here. My favorite place in Lakewood, probably my house or my dock, I guess. I can sit up there, watch people and activities on the lake.
Thank you, Ed. Is it Ticomere Dunlop? I can't see everything when I'm sharing my screen. Do we have Ticomere Dunlop?
He is joined in the meeting and accepted the co-host. Oh, it looks like he just unmuted. Can you
Great.
Hello?
We can
Hello.
hear.
Oh, hello. My name is Ticomere Dunlop, and I live near Steilacoom Lake. I have a family membership of the Washington Native Plant Society. I'm 17 and currently a Running Start student at Pierce College. In 2016, when I was 11, 13 Gary Oaks, a couple doors down the street from where I live, on a lot that was less than 17,000 square feet, were clear cut. This was incredibly distressing for me. It irreversibly damaged the neighborhood we live in, destroying habitats, increasing summer temperature by reducing tree cover, and removing critical carbon sequestration. Gary Oaks take an incredibly long time to grow and are what make Lakewood special. And I wanted to be on this committee to help protect them. And in terms of my favorite place in Lakewood, I think that would be anywhere where there are Gary Oaks. So thank you.
Thank you. How about Jean Ellers? Has Jean joined, Courtney?
No,
Okay.
mark them as absent this evening.
Okay, great. Thank you. Jessie Gamble?
Hi, my name is Jessie Gamble. I am with the Master Builders Association of Pierce County. We are located on 3711 Center Street in Tacoma. Looking forward to helping out with the nexus of the tree code and how it interacts with attainable housing, especially as we navigate the housing crisis that is impacted by all these different pressing goals at the same time. Favorite place in Lakewood. Anytime I really get a chance to stop in Lakewood, I always make sure to swing by the Barnes Noble. I like reading books, and I feel like those are far and in between now. So always a nice place to be.
Thank you, Jessie. How about Micah Glastetter?
Looks like I am unmuted. Yeah, my name is Micah Glastetter. I'm about 50 years old. I own a tree service here in Lakewood, and I was born and raised in Lakewood. Went through the school system here. I echo the sentiments of many here, especially the young man who just spoke about Gary Oaks. It has been very difficult for me that the current code does not protect any trees on a lot under 17,000 square feet. That is most of Oak Brook. Most of the properties that actually have Gary Oaks are smaller than 17,000 square feet. And so I too am interested in protecting Gary Oaks. Also, I would love to see a voluntary program where they are cultured somewhere here in Lakewood in sort of a nursery setting where people can voluntarily plant native trees. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Great, thank you. Melissa Jackson?
Yes, my name is Melissa Jackson, and I, like Micah, have grown up. We all went to school together, Micah and I did actually, through the Clover Park schools, graduated from Clover Park High School, went to Pacific Lutheran University. My family has lived in the Lakewood area since the mid-1800s. Like many here, I'm very vested in the development of our little city and in finding a way to marry progress and preservation. Very interested in protecting different areas and different stands of trees that remain here in Lakewood and educating the community about the importance of these trees and ways that they can maintain them and things like that. Favorite places, any of the lakes, Fort Steilacoom, and I love the lovely Gary Oak stand that's over where the old golf course used to be, kind of behind Western State. There's a lovely stand of trees back there. Great for walking through.
Great, thanks. Hank Jones?
Yes, hello everyone. I'm really happy to be here. So my name is Hank Jones. I live in the Lake City area of Lakewood and I go to Harrison Prep. I'm 17. I am part of the Lakewood Youth Council. I'm really looking forward to becoming more knowledgeable about the city of Lakewood's environmental practices and helping the city become more environmentally conscientious. And I know that very often youth perspectives aren't valued in this type of setting. And so again, we're really glad that the city was able to make room for a member of the Youth Council. And I know that we'll still be treated like adults in the room, even though we are younger. So we appreciate that. And I agree with Mr. Boatman. My favorite place in Lakewood has to be Fort Steilacoom Park, specifically the dog park. I love walking my little golden retriever around the dog park.
Okay, thank you, Hank. Sean Martin?
Mr. Martin is absent this evening. Tapcar did send Jim Henderson in his place, who is attending as a member of the public and will be able again to speak during our public comment period.
Thank you, Courtney. And then we have Maya Neff.
Maya Neff. I don't live in Lakewood. I'm Lakewood adjacent, but I have worked at Lakewold Gardens, which is in the Lake District in Lakewood, and I've been there for the past 4 years. Yeah, solid 4 years as of next month. I look forward to doing as much as we can and looking through that tree code to try and preserve, as everybody seems to be mentioning, the stands of trees that we have, to try to increase and keep the tree canopy as best we can as we move forward as a city. And my favorite place in Lakewood, I'm only slightly sad nobody else mentioned where I work, but it's going to be Lakewold Gardens. As a close second, I do like the Oak Brook golf course. The shapes of the oak trees in that area are just, they're so fantastic.
Thank you so much. Well, that's our group. there are 2 open positions, and I believe, Courtney, those are under consideration in the next week or 2, and we anticipate those seats being appointed by the time of your next meeting on the 15th. So what we'd like to do now is have the City Attorney Heidi Walker talk a bit about the Open Public Meetings Act. Heidi, would you like to introduce yourself and go over that?
My name's Heidi Walker, and I have been the city attorney for the city of Lakewood since 2002. And so I've been around a while. I am also in the Clover Park Rotary, and I will get fined if I don't share that with you tonight at our next meeting. We're supposed to make sure that we put our Clover Park Rotarian label out there. I'm also on the Lakewood Playhouse board, so I'm involved in Lakewood, and really do appreciate the community. And back when I was more of a runner, I did a lot of running through Fort Steilacoom Park, and appreciate a city that has places like that to enjoy. I actually, instead of starting with the Open Public Meetings Act, that's some of the fine print that I'll talk about in a minute. I do want to cover a couple bases first, and it taps into some things that were mentioned earlier. One of the appointed folks dutifully sent someone in their stead, and it leads me to a comment about what it means to be appointed. And sometimes people describe these things as distinctions only lawyers can love, but it is a distinction that makes a difference. When you are appointed by the council, they are necessarily delegating part of their authority to you. You have special authority that other people do not have. And we absolutely want public input and public involvement. Public input matters, but the council saw a need for a very specific kind of deep dive, as the mayor mentioned. And people are selected for lots of reasons. And sometimes it's not about specific individual traits. Sometimes it's about what the council sees the group as being able to do when they come together. And if you listen to those introductions, this is a pretty varied group. The council wants different perspectives. They want you to come together from your different places of seeing this issue. And I appreciated what Hank said about, the adults in the room. And hopefully what will happen is you guys will get into the kinds of discussions where suddenly you don't have any idea how old the person across the table is. You are going to express your viewpoint as a person. And if you can get into those kinds of discussions, that's the intent of the council, is to really give it some back and forth. You're intended to accomplish a purpose and inform a process. And so in that regard, those of you who are appointed need to remember that you have that hat on when you're at the table, and obviously give the public their input, but respect the serious role that you've been given here. And that sort of heads us then into what the process is. The process is time consuming. If this was something the council could resolve by having a presentation by a fabulous city attorney in 5 minutes or an hour, and then make their decision, they would do that. They certainly wouldn't take up your time if they could have done it that simply. But they actually are very interested in what happens when people from all different corners of the community come together and really share their perspectives. Ask questions, perhaps have presentations from people, but really do that deep dive. And because you're coming from different perspectives, I will share with you now, if you get through this entire process and don't have at least one hot conversation or some really healthy back and forth, you're probably not getting deep enough in the topic. And that's where things like parliamentary procedure come into play, and things like agendas. And yes, I'm one of those people who can get excited about agendas and minutes and parliamentary procedure. It's the kind of thing, it's sort of like the seams in the suit. You shouldn't always realize they're there, but you really do need them. And what I would urge you to consider is starting with agendas for each of your meetings. Have an idea of how much you can bite off in a meeting so that they don't go too long and everyone stays fresh. Work with your assigned staff like Courtney and our folks from Burke Consulting. What do you want to cover in that meeting? And if you map it out that way, you are going to know pretty soon, oh, that question that we're talking about next meeting, there's going to be some back and forth on that. We might want somebody to come in with some parliamentary procedure background, and I am happy to come in and do that with you if you want to know best ways to make motions. best ways to argue pros and cons of something, best way to get everybody a chance to say something before you put the question to rest. There are lots and lots of tools to do that. I would encourage you to avoid memorizing Robert's rules. What can happen sometimes when folks disagree is that someone in the group will become an expert on Robert's rules. And the next thing you know, you spend about a half an hour arguing about whether the rule has been properly applied before somebody can speak their mind. That is not the intention of parliamentary procedure. The intent is that everyone here who has been appointed has an opportunity to fully express themselves on the relevant question before the group. You may at some point create what's called a parking lot, where somebody brings something up they really want to talk about, but the group doesn't think it's time yet. Put that item in the parking lot. So the intent is to make sure that this group is able to go through everything they need to go through. So as you go through your process, if you find yourself getting wrapped around the axle, you can start down the road with parliamentary procedure. If that's not working, let your folks from Burke Consulting know, let Courtney know, let me know, and we will figure out a way to get the full import of the discussion out there. It's intended to facilitate disagreement. I can't imagine you guys will get through this without disagreeing. That's healthy for this group to have. So we're available to help with that. The fine print is the shared screen that first came up when I was being introduced. Because you have been delegated a specific type of authority from the council, they want you to do a deep dive on something that they could ultimately consider legislating. You are subject to the Open Public Meetings Act. The Open Public Meetings Act is essentially the law saying that the public has a right to see what you're doing. I want to be really super clear about this. This is another distinction that only lawyers can love. That means the public can see what you're doing. The public has not been appointed to be part of what you're doing. If you want public input, you can make arrangements for that, but you do not want to get into a situation where they are actually at the table of your discussions. You need to be very clear about when you're taking public input versus when you as an appointed official are giving your opinion on something. So the sites that are here, and Courtney will be sending these out to you, these are apparently better than any of the trainings I used to give on open public meetings, and they're also shorter, but they will put you in compliance with having been properly trained in what the requirements are for Open Public Meetings Act. If you should ever have to have an executive session, which I would not imagine is going to happen, but if it did, I will be pulled in and we will walk you through that. But otherwise, your stuff is all open. The other open government thing that you need to know about is the Public Records Act. And I did just get a question from someone who's on one of the other boards for the city asking about whether their personal notes are subject to public disclosure. Typically, public or personal notes are not, but it depends on what's requested and it depends on what people have at the time it's requested. Ideally, what will be happening is Courtney will be the keeper of the record of this group. If you're keeping personal notes, you are not required to keep those for any particular amount of time or anything like that. We would ask you if you had them, if we got a request for that. But the record of the group as a whole will be maintained by the city. If you feel like you have a document that should be part of that record, you can send it to Courtney and we'll keep it in that way. And if you have questions on any of that, you're welcome to contact the legal department. Have I spoken longer than anyone ever wanted me to, or do you have specific questions you were wishing I had covered? Or are you now thinking, good God, they already brought a lawyer in, what have I done? Any questions, issues? I'm happy to come back at any time. That's not a threat. It's intended to be helpful, and just let me know and enjoy your time in this process. I know that the council feels very strongly that this is the best way to get the best result for the city. So thank you. That's it.
Heidi, I
go
have
ahead.
a quick question for you, Heidi. Just, I'm not sure how many of these sessions are going to be Zoom versus in person following the governor's pronouncement last week. But a question to you, just for the benefit of all, when folks are addressing one another, should they always have their camera on because the sessions are being recorded? or what's the preference?
Ideally, it looks more transparent if people can see everyone's pictures. In terms of what people have done in practice, not everyone's able to trigger their camera depending on where they're at or what they're doing, or want to sometimes. Just understand that what that will look like. I'm looking at right now, there's several people that don't have their cameras on. That's what the public will then see. So I think the council's been pretty strong on all appearing on camera when they've had their meetings. I'm not sure there's a regulation to that. The second piece that we're watching for is whether or not, once mask mandates and the like are lifted, is whether or not governmental entities will be held to holding hybrid meetings. And at that stage, you all will want to have a discussion about whether you are willing to have some of you present and some of you coming in through Zoom. I will tell you that the logistics of that get a little bit dicey. And for the kinds of discussions you're going to be having, you may want to resolve some of those questions in advance. Any other questions?
Heidi, I think one thing that we're going to cover a little bit later, but I'd appreciate your thoughts. We're wanting email communication, such as if Courtney or myself are sending out any materials for the meetings to the group, to just be informational only and not to conduct conversations essentially by email. I thought maybe you could touch on that.
And actually, that's one of the biggest points I should have covered. And it is this, that if you receive the packet, as Lisa has indicated, or something from Courtney that's like, here's the packet for the next meeting. If you find that the report you specifically requested is not in the packet, you need to contact Courtney or Lisa, just one person. Do not respond to all. And the reason for that is that if you start anything that resembles discussion or consideration in an email forum, that's depriving the public of the right to see the discussion. So if you have concerns with what gets sent out, do not reply to all. Okay. Mr. Billingsley, you raised your hand. Maybe he didn't raise his hand.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I did. My my computer just told me that Xfinity Comcast is down in my area, so I've joined on my phone.
Oh, okay. I'm glad that wasn't a question for me. So.
Okay, there we are. Now, I'm on the phone because Xfinity just sent me a text that they're down here.
You've been resourceful.
Well, I know you guys have the matter of the day to get. So I'm going to step away, but please feel free to contact me either through the city folks who are here or directly at my email, or you can call me. Any of those are fine. And thank you. Bring me back whenever.
Thank you, Heidi. Lisa, I do want to point out Mr. Martin from TAPCAR was able to join us, so he was not present during the introductions. If we want to allow for him to make his introduction now.
Oh, that would be great. We're asking for a short introduction and what you're hoping to get out of the review of the tree code and your favorite place in Lakewood.
Well, I forgive my ignorance. I don't know a lot of Lakewood, honestly. I know working with our members, I've learned a little bit more. I've been here at TAPCAR for a little bit less than a year. So Tacoma Pierce County Association of Realtors, CEO here, and still kind of learning the lay of the land. But, this is obviously an issue that's come up, kind of got flagged for us. I'm working with some of our builder partners as well. Stuff's not built. We don't have housing to sell. And so there's kind of a direct correlation and impact to the housing market. But at the same time, being good stewards of the environment and, keeping Lakewood as a desirable place to live and whatnot. So that's our interest. Looking forward to being involved. And sorry for being late. We had a member event tonight, but glad to be able to jump on and join.
So we're right on time. We're going to go into a description of the scope and the schedule. So I'm going to share my screen again. And this slide is summarizing some of the technical work that we're going to do and some of the engagement work. Our two main deliverables that will be developed with Burke and our subcontractor Planet Geo will be a situation assessment, which will involve a tree canopy evaluation and a tree code evaluation against best practices. Those are products that we are intending to get to you in March. So for example, we're targeting the tree canopy evaluation. We're planning to present that at the next meeting. And then shortly thereafter, we'll have the tree code evaluation. That's to help this group do your work. We will also be conducting some engagement in addition to working with the ad hoc committee. Jonathan will share a little bit more on engagement shortly. I wanted to walk through the schedule, and Jonathan will join me in a moment to talk about the engagement side. So our schedule is listed here. It was posted at the time that you made application. And I believe for now, back to the city attorney's comments, for now, we've planned all these sessions to be virtual via Zoom, and that's posted on the project website. So we have a meeting roughly every 2 weeks, a little bit closer as we are working more diligently in April. So tonight, the 15th, the 29th in March, and then April 5th and April 12th. The 26th was tentative, and it kind of depended on if we were able to start in late February, and also how much discussion you might have. It's likely we will have a meeting that date. So just this calendar over here, this schedule generally identifies major steps by month. And so I'll walk through that briefly, and then we'll talk a little bit about engagement, and we'll open up for questions. I have a couple more slides on some of the deliverables to share, and then we'll have some questions. So January and February, we spent kicking off the project. On the consultant team side, we were starting to collect background information, and the city council was accepting the applications and forming the committee and setting up the charge and the role that you saw in the resolution. In March, from the technical side, our team is working on the draft tree canopy evaluation and the code evaluation. Your meetings are going to cover introductions, which is tonight. And then next meeting, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but look at tree canopy goals and then work on the review of the code evaluation. That's in March. And then in April, we're anticipating sharing outreach results with the ad hoc committee, and then the ad hoc committee developing its report to the city council. And from May through August, likely May, June, with the planning commission, and July, August with the council. That's just a rough idea. That's our overall schedule. So I'm going to pause and see if Jonathan can add a little bit more about the targeted outreach that we have in our scope.
Sure. So coupled with the technical pieces, a major part of this process will be engaging the diverse community of Lakewood. So we'll be hosting a series of interviews and stakeholder discussion groups with community groups such as neighborhood associations, various other neighborhood-specific groups, Youth Council, Korean Women's Association. So this will be through phone calls or even just emails and interviews. We may be part of standing agendas at neighborhood meetings just to provide an update on the project and how things are shaping. Yeah, so I think that covers what we have so far planned.
Yeah, and I think in addition to the targeted outreach in March, we were anticipating a brief poll that might be issued through social media. And then we've talked about doing a tree tour and maybe making it also self-guided. So we may do one event in person, but also make things available if people want to do their own tree tour. Those are just a couple of the things we thought might be helpful to the process. So that's the overall schedule. I'll share a couple more slides on the technical work that we have underway, and then we'll open it up for questions about the scope and the schedule. You may have seen in the public participation plan that the city asked us to prepare last fall as they were considering the review of the tree code. We did put together some initial early data that was available about tree canopy coverage by census tract and heat islands, which are areas with more impervious area and less tree cover, and so they heat up a little bit more in the summertime. But these are preliminary, and we are working on a little bit more refined tree canopy evaluation. It won't be tree by tree specific, but it will be more detailed than what we had in the public participation plan. And so our partner on the project, Planet Geo, will be identifying canopy by zone, and we mean the city's zoning districts, for example. And we'll also be looking at canopy on public and private lands. Just a way to break down information with a little bit more clarity. What we think this will do is provide some information that can help the consideration of tree canopy goals. Those could help us also think about the goals in the city, either for the code changes themselves or potentially comprehensive plan policies in the future. We will also be looking at 10-year trend of tree canopy change over time in Lakewood. So that's the evaluation of the canopy. And then in terms of the tree code evaluation, both Burke and Planet Geo will be looking at the current tree code and looking at best practices and issues and options and how the tree code works in different districts and how tree codes work in other situations and other communities, and come up with some issues for the group to discuss. We will be looking at the standards themselves, as well as administrative and permit procedures. And then as a result of this review, identifying potential coordinating changes with the comprehensive plan, and if there's other relevant city regulations that may relate, such as critical areas. So that is our overall work program and the schedule. And I'm going to stop sharing. I can reshare if we need to, but I thought I'd just see if there were any questions about the schedule or the tasks that we have before us. You want to raise your hand, that will make sure we. Looks like Ed, you did a virtual, and there we go. Ed, I think you're muted.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We'll get you, Alan. Hang on.
Okay, I can't raise my hand. I don't see how to do it on my cell phone. Go ahead.
Okay, we'll start with that and we'll come right back to you, Alan.
Sorry, I was muted. My questions are around some of the documents and things like that you were just showing out there. I was kind of curious if you could share with us how the tree canopy and the heat island methodology, how was that done? How was the data gathered? What created it?
Yeah. Let me see if I can zoom in here a little bit. We used available information. So for the tree canopy coverage, we had information from American Forests and then used Census Bureau census tracts, but that was the source for that data. It's available online as well. So we can provide more on that. And on the heat islands, I believe that was from the Trust for Public Land, but let me just double check that. Yes, Trust for Public Lands. You may have seen their park score information. They also have information available on heat island and impervious areas.
So I guess that would answer the question on, there's a couple of areas on those maps that said no data.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because, so this wasn't data that you went out and had collected for you. It's actually just data that you gleaned online.
Correct.
And then how did you corroborate that stuff? And where else did you go that said that's accurate and believable, et cetera?
Well, I guess I would say that gives a snapshot. We looked at a few sources, but that's one of the reasons why we brought Planet Geo on board, was because they have access to additional information that we can share with the group. But this was to help support the public participation plan. And I think just generally speaking, looking at aerials and available data, the portions of the city that were developed later in time or with a lower density pattern tend to have more trees. And then the areas that were more the original core area that developed in Lakewood, the mall, and other areas near the airfield have less tree canopy. And that sort of matches, even though they're different data sources, there's more impervious area over on the east side of the community. So just from like a big picture perspective, it seemed reasonable to share, but it's not necessarily the only information we'll be sharing back with the group.
Sure.
And thank you.
The one other question I do have is, when you said you were doing outreach and there's conversation about where you were going or looking at doing things like that, and what was the decision making on which groups to approach?
Well, I would say we have not finalized exactly which groups to approach. If the public participation plan that was developed and out there with the council agenda packets showed a long list of potential groups in the community that may have an interest in this topic. So I think our Jonathan was just giving sort of a rough idea that it could vary from sort of neighborhood specific groups to groups that, like the Korean Women's Association, that are involved in public policy in the area. And it was just our intent to say that there's a range of folks that we'll be reaching out to with information and in different languages, just to kind of cover the bases a bit.
Great, thank you.
Sure. Alan, I wanted to come back to you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I've never had Comcast go down, and it's a pain right now. I just have a question as well as a comment. One of the things on our work study for the Parks Board was, in fact, a Canopy survey of the city of Lakewood, and I'm not sure what the status of that is, but it might be worth doubling back with Mary Dodsworth to see where that is, to see if there's any redundancy of work or any information that can be shared there.
Yes, that sounds great. We will do that. Courtney, I don't know if you have any knowledge offhand, but if not, we will definitely get in touch with Mary.
We've been working with Mary to discuss funding opportunities and make sure that we're not duplicating work, but I will check back with her, Mr. Billingsley, just to verify that.
Super. And of course, the Parks Board's interested in hearing anything you have to say too, of course.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, we are on track to go on to a review of the committee charge and roles. And I'm just going to share information you've already received, but just put it up on the screen through the resolution and the welcome letter. But just in case there are questions. So this is section 6 of the resolution, forming the group that set forth the charge. The first couple bullets are procedural, about having public sessions and attending up to 6 meetings, which we've kind of covered between the city attorney's presentation and our schedule. Did someone have a question? I thought I heard something. I can't see everything when I'm sharing my screen, so Courtney, let me know if I'm missing something.
No raised hands right now, Lisa.
Okay, great. Well, we wanted just to go over the other portions of the charge. And so beyond the logistical items of the meetings, we get into the functioning of the group, to listen carefully to community opinions, attitudes, and needs. And so the city attorney covered some of that, as well as what Jonathan mentioned. We will be doing some targeted outreach, and people can write letters to the city, and we can make those available to you ahead of your meetings. So the idea is we will collect and share that information with you. The individual committee members are expected to be fair, impartial, and respectful of public, staff, and each other. This was touched on by the mayor and the city attorney, that the committee members, will respect the limitations of their individual and collective authority. There's been some authority granted, but it is limited in scope, and the role is to advise the city council and or staff. And so there's another sentence about the appointment not empowering a committee member to make a final decision or supervise staff. So you're an advisory role regarding the tree code. Members will strive to appreciate difference in approach and point of view, whether from each other, the community, the city council, or staff. And as the city attorney mentioned, the group was appointed to represent different points of view, and it's expected that there will be discussion of those different points of view. Each member will participate in the group's discussions and work assignments without dominating the discussion or activity of the committee. So we will have times for discussion on the future agendas, and we'll try to make those clear. Committee chair, who has yet to be voted on, will ensure that all members have a fair, balanced, and respectful opportunity to share their knowledge and perspectives. And the committee will attempt to reach a consensus on issues. And if consensus is not possible, strong differing opinions, such as minority opinions, should be recorded and acknowledged in the committee's report to the city council. So I'll share also some of the items that were in the welcome letter you received from Dave Buer and Courtney, that kind of go in tandem with that. The ad hoc committee will operate by consensus. All positions will be respected and considered, and the group will work collaboratively. So we wanted to define consensus as being a majority opinion, and the objective is to reach unity rather than unanimity, which means that the group's discussion and majority opinion will be respected by the whole group and carried forward in the report. We will record those consensus opinions as well as the minority opinions. It is also our goal to start and end on time. So far, we're doing great on meeting number 1. We've touched on the email communication protocols. The city attorney went through that the emails are to be used for logistics, and Heidi mentioned to just reply to one person being on staff, which is Courtney or myself, who are also helping with this process, and not to engage in email dialogue. And the city attorney also mentioned this as well, that it's important that the committee meet with the members that were duly appointed, so principals only. So I will stop sharing here and see if there's any questions that we can hopefully answer, or if that all seemed pretty clear. I don't necessarily see any hands raised. So we're a little ahead of schedule here, but we could start our public comment period. As Courtney mentioned, we have it planned for up to 15 minutes. I'm going to share my screen just for the rules of the road here. What we're asking is that those who wish to speak share your comments and be respectful, and limit comments to approximately 3 minutes per person. I am going to stop sharing my screen and we'll see if folks have raised their hands, and then Jonathan will share his screen, and he's got a 3-minute clock that you might have seen something similar at city council meetings, but that's what we're planning to do this evening. So it looks like we do have one hand raised. It's Denise. And Courtney, are you able to?
Yes, all members of the public, and it looks like we have 4 members, have been given the opportunity to unmute themselves and raise hands. So right now, as Lisa mentioned, we see Miss Denise Franklin. Denise, feel free.
Hello all. Thank you so much for having this meeting. As a former youth council member for the city of Lakewood, and as well as a native of Lakewood, I planted roots here permanently 4 years ago when I bought and built my house through Habitat for Humanity. It's a privilege and an honor to be able to hear the plans that you have for preserving our trees in our area. I have submitted to be for review to be on the ad hoc committee referred by Habitat for Humanity, as well as Miss Linda Fisher. So I am just here learning, and I'm grateful that you all are here. I'm happy to see members that are from the Youth Council themselves. The gentleman mentioned earlier that sometimes youth voice isn't heard, and you all are already starting out right. So I'm happy to be a part of this meeting today. Thank you for allowing me to sit in and listen and learn, and any way I can lend a hand, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Denise. I don't see any other hands raised. We do have other members of the public here. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand. It does look like we have Eric Siebel. Is that correct?
Hello. Yes, my name is Eric Seibel. I live on Ponce de Leon Creek, and I just wanted to say thank you very much to the city for instituting this process and convening this committee. And thank you, all of you, the committee members, for your service in this issue. I'm anticipating learning a lot. I already have. As the speaker just before me said, I'm interested and willing to help in any way that I can. Thanks again.
Thank you. It looks like Beth Mueller has raised her hand. Go ahead, Beth.
Hi, I just wanted to say hi, and I think this is a really neat committee, and the idea of talking about the trees in the city of Lakewood. And I was wondering, because I kind of missed like a huge chunk of it. I was just wondering if the plan was to preserve so there's private property and there's parks. Is the idea to preserve trees that are in the parks area or trees that are on private land? Do you know anything about what I might have missed that you could just recap?
Sure, I can cover the big picture. I think that the idea behind developing some more tree canopy information is to help the city consider some tree canopy goals that would apply to both public and private land. It would be like a citywide or maybe a neighborhood level type of goal. The tree code applies to development, whether that development is public or private. It's likely to be, most often coming up, when there's a development on a private property, but I think it would apply to wherever development is proposed. So stay tuned. I think there will be a lot more to come on the current tree code evaluation, and then the tree committee will be considering different issues and options with the way the code works now and ideas for how it might work better.
Does this also apply to, actually, I'm sorry, I didn't know if I was allowed to speak still. Does this apply? So we have the native oak trees.
Mm-hmm.
They are protected because, well, I think they're threatened or something like that. So is this going to be specific trees, or is this just the tree canopy in general?
Well, it will cover trees in general, but I believe that particular tree types will come up in the discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm just gonna put down on my calendar the coming dates. Is there going to be a public comment period or to ask questions in the future meetings?
We are anticipating that the future meetings will be more jam-packed with committee work. And so what we're anticipating is that there will be opportunities for the public to, Jonathan, you can stop the clock on my reply here. That there will be opportunities to send in letters to the ad hoc committee. And certainly when we have participation through the polls or the tree tour, things like that, the members of the public can attend there. And then I think, Courtney, the standard operating procedure for the Planning Commission and City Council will be to have public comment periods. So I think that's generally what's going to happen.
So this ad hoc committee is charged with forming some recommendations to provide to the Planning Commission and the City Council. And once those recommendations are in place, the City Council and Planning Commission will both review those recommendations. If any changes are proposed, then there will certainly be public hearings at one, if not both levels, that would go out through public outreach and welcome all members of the public to come and make testimony.
Wonderful. Okay, that was everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, I see no more hands raised. We can make a last call for the public comment period. It looks like we have one more from Amelia Escobedo.
Hello. So one of my questions is, are we going to have anybody from the native tribes come to any of these meetings, or are they going to have a say so in anything that you're doing? The other question is, how do we allow the changing of who's on the committee if we don't, as people that are for the trees and seeing people that are on the committee that are not for the trees? I don't see how that's going to be helpful and how accountability is going to happen there.
Well, thank you, Amelia. The City Council set forth in the resolution forming the committee the perspectives they wanted to ensure were represented, diverse opinions. And so the committee isn't the only way for folks to participate. We do anticipate through the public participation plan reaching out to the tribes and other groups that would likely have an interest in the process. And as Courtney mentioned, in addition to this ad hoc tree committee work, there are other opportunities to provide comments to the city, to the Planning Commission, and to the City Council. This is just one aspect of the overall process.
So how are you saying that you're going to have community involvement if you're saying that there's not going to be any really real time after you speak, like right now, to have any comments? And is it going to be recorded?
All of these meetings will be recorded and live streamed. And as Courtney mentioned, we're just trying to respect the work of the group in terms of having 90 minutes for just a handful of meetings to do the work, but certainly the comments can be sent to Courtney. We'll be posting that contact information shortly. at any time during this process, and we will be sharing all of those comments with the group.
And
And then-
another thing, I would like to know how the people on the committee got chosen and what qualifies them to be chosen to be on the committee.
Well, I think I would refer you to the city council resolution, and I think, Courtney, there are links to the city council meetings where they considered the appointments at recent meetings in February.
Yes, so we had a 30-day application period for individuals to join the committee, interested in joining the committee to apply. Those applications were forwarded onto the city council for review, and committee members were selected from that candidate pool.
How many people of those members are tree advocates? That's the question.
Well, I think several folks have identified their affiliations related to their interest in tree canopy protection. But I guess I think, Courtney, the membership has been announced at the council meetings, and the final positions will be appointed here shortly.
March 7th, that's correct.
Yeah. So I see, and I think everything's available online, so we can point people if you're having any trouble finding that information. We can point people to those links. I see a phone number that ends in 3331 has a hand up. Do we have? It's a phone number 2.
Hello. Hello.
Hi there.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes. Are you able to say your name?
Great. Sure. This is Christina Minetti, and I live in Lakewood, and I've been very interested in the tree preservation question for the last decade or so, but especially since last year. And I just wanted to thank the City Council, first of all, for putting this together, and for Burke coming to help organize all this, for everybody who's agreed to be on the committee. I'm just really literally thrilled that this is happening. And I'm sure everybody who knows me can imagine that. But I wanted to specifically say that, my colleagues and I have done a lot of research. I've been in contact with a lot of specialists about trees, about, habitat, whatever. And so I wanted to offer to all the committee members, research support if they need it. I'll write an email to everybody. And if people have questions and, they probably don't have time to dig into it completely themselves, maybe because they have lots of other things to do, they can ask me. Ask my colleagues. If we don't know, we'll research it, we'll write it up, we'll send it to them, and we'll try to help them as much as we can. So that's all I wanted to say for now. Other than that, good luck with everything on the committee. I hope it goes really well, and I hope you guys get to know each other and work together, and I hope it brings a really good result. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Christina. And if you have information you would like shared with the full committee, please send it to Courtney. We will put her contact information up here shortly.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Well, I believe that was everyone that raised their hand, and that is about our 15-minute period. So I think the last thing we were going to do is just go over next steps. So I'll just remind folks of the schedule we have. We're meeting next on the 15th. We anticipate the agenda to include the selection of a chair and a vice chair. And as I mentioned at that meeting, we anticipate sharing the tree canopy information and have a discussion on goals. Courtney, is there any other logistical or next meeting topics you wanted to make sure we pointed out?
I will say that we just recently created a website that is dedicated to this committee. You can find it on the City of Lakewood's homepage under Government, Boards and Commissions. It's the first one listed. It was also recently posted on our Facebook if that's an easier avenue for you to find it. But there we will be hosting all of our agendas. We will include the link to access this on YouTube. I will make sure my contact information is included there. Should you have any additional comments as a member of the public that you'd like to forward, or if any of you lose my contact information through one of the other forums we've sent it and you're searching for it, it'll be listed there. We will also include any future agendas and the meeting minutes from prior meetings at that webpage. So in addition to this committee expecting an email from us for future agenda packets, that will be another place to locate it.
Thank you, Courtney. I think because we had some questions on public participation, we might post that public participation plan that went to the council packet last fall. I think that might be a good link to add there. I think I also wanted to post Courtney's direct contact information. Courtney is your main point of contact, and she will be ensuring that everything that comes in from the public is part of the record for this project. I'm a secondary contact. My role is to assist the ad hoc committee. And so my information is here in case there's a question about the meeting facilitation. And as the city attorney mentioned, it's best to, in response to a coordinating email with packet information, to directly contact just one of us. I just wanted to point out our contact information there. That was also in your welcome letter. So we have time if the committee has questions on any of the next steps or the process that we've covered. If you want to raise your hand, we can take anything here. It looks like Melissa has her hand raised.
Yes, thank you. For clarification, I've been doing some side study into some of these issues and topics. And so, for example, if I had found some resources that I feel maybe the committee or your group should take a look at, it might be a good resource. What's the best way? Do you want me to email that to you directly, bring it to the committee? What's the process for that?
Yeah, that's a great question, Melissa. I would say if you have anything that you want to share, why don't you go ahead and directly send it to Courtney, and then she can share it with us, and we'd like to share it with the committee. And since you have it ready, and our group, including Planet Geo, is pulling together information and resources, if it is ready, that would be great to have in the next couple of days, if it's possible. That can just help us as we're moving fairly quickly, to pull together information for your next meeting. Do we have other hands? Any other questions? And Alan, I know you're on the phone, so if you want to, no one else has their hand raised, just in case you wanted.
No, I'm just glad to be here. I'm very excited to see the work of this committee take form.
Great. I don't see any other hands raised. Courtney, is there any other logistical information that you want to share?
Not that I can think of this evening. Thank you, Lisa.
Okay. Well, we will be posting. Well, it's live streamed already. So I think, Courtney, the idea is the link to this meeting will be on the project website, correct?
Yes, and I can actually share that project website really quick. Here you see the project website, cityoflakewood.us/tree-committee. And this is where we will be posting our agendas, the link to the Zoom, my contact information will be added. And then if there are any review, additional documents for review, those will also be posted here.
Great, thank you, Courtney. Well, I think we have made it through our published agenda. And I think we're gonna get ready for the next meeting. And I want to thank you all for attending this evening. I think it was a great introduction, and we'll have a lot of good work ahead of us coming up.
Thank you, everyone. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Lisa or myself. We look forward to hearing from you and working with each of you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank